Who's our Secret Service man today?
Right here.
Hi, Pete Maizitis. How you doing?
What's your name?
My name's Pete Maizitis.
Pete?
Yeah.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Same here. So what are you going to be talking about today?
Basically, my 5 years in the Secret Service. Just a condensed version.
So I heard you were in the line with the parade with Kennedy there?
Yes.
And you saw the whole thing? That was a tragedy.
Very much so, yeah. From beginning to end. It was kind of a wild weekend.
Okay.
I'll talk a little bit about it.
I know.
So you retired?
No, I left the Secret Service about 6 months after the assassination.
Okay. Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Now have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated for coming. Got about 90 people here so far tonight. And sorry there's nothing, no ham and kielbasa or pizza, but we do have a special treat for you later here. Our June bulletin was mailed last Friday on May 25th. I hope everybody did receive it. Most everybody got it? That's good. Glad to hear it. Tonight we have a very special speaker. His name is Paul Landis. He's a former Secret Service agent who was on the ground behind President Kennedy in Dallas on that fateful day. Our trustee Ron Witkiewicz is responsible for Paul's appearance here tonight, and they're very close friends. We also have some other special guests here tonight, Irene and Peter Maizitis. Where's Irene and Peter at? There you go. Say hello. You wonder, there's Irene, and here's Pete over here. All right? They flew in from California, from MGM Studios, and they asked Peter to take the organization. I thought they were going to do a screen test for me, but when I found out it was the wrong Paul, it really shot me down, Oh, were they here for you, J-Lo? Oh my God, now I really got knocked on. See, Peter, we have a movie star over here. You'll see that. Okay, all in favor? Okay, don't go away. Now, finally, Paul Landis. Ryan?
Years already, and if you really met him on the street, you would never, ever know he was a Secret Service agent. Never. I have a nice intro, and I don't want to give it till he comes back, because he deserves every bit of it, So, but anyway, he's a really nice guy, and I will ask you, because he has a hearing aid, if you have any questions, please speak up, okay? Because he'll take questions and answers after he has his talk. That's part of his presentation. So if you have any, please ask them, as loud as you can, so everybody can hear them. Thank you. That's all. We'll start. Okay. Could I have your attention, please? Okay. It took me a long time to do this, Paul. To get this thing together. But I've known Paul for enough years now to understand what a good friend and a fine gentleman he really is. Paul is an Ohio-born guy, and he was raised in Worthington, Ohio, just outside of Columbus. He graduated from Ohio Wesleyan University in 1957, and he served active duty in the Air National Guard. He joined the Secret Service in October of 1959, and he served through June of 1964. He served during President Eisenhower and President Kennedy administrations. I am proud to introduce Mr. Paul Landis.
Can anybody hear me? Everybody hear me all right? If you have a problem, just raise your hand and I'll scream or do whatever. I'm not accustomed to doing this, so please please bear with me. I'm going to give you just a brief run-through of my time in the Secret Service. Is that better now?
Yeah.
Go to the side. Okay. I spent almost 5 years in the Secret Service. That's what it's condensed down to. Every day, we made entry in a diary, what we were doing, what we did. So I'm going to condense that down so you know I'm not going to be talking for very long. I'll give you a brief rundown of what I went through, and if we get to the end, I'll answer all the questions I can as best I can. I know where most of the questions are going to come from and what they're going to be about. When I first started in the Secret Service, it was kind of just circumstantial. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a friend who graduated from high school 5 years ahead of me. He used to date my sister. He was in the Secret Service. He happened to be home on vacation. He'd been on an overseas trip with President Eisenhower, and he was talking about the experiences, and I thought this all sounded pretty cool. And he convinced me. I was a little guy. I didn't think I had any chance. He convinced me to go down and apply through the office in Columbus. Took a year and a half to get through security clearance and everything. And I was finally hired October 5th, 1959, and I started Cincinnati field office. I spent the first 90 days are pretty much whatever, they just kind of review, and you're under a probationary period. You get through that, then this whole time is spent reading a manual, learning all the rules, everything that they have. It's about that thick, and chasing down old check cases. Back in the 50s, all the Social Security checks, workers' comp checks, everything were delivered in the mail. You had a lot of check forgers out there. This is where we spent most of the time. I had one kind of minor counterfeiting case. Somebody was making lead 50-cent pieces, and that's about the only thing I got involved in as far as counterfeiting was concerned. After 6 months in the field office, at that time, agents had to go on a temporary assignment. My temporary assignment was Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, with President Eisenhower's grandchildren. This was really super assignment. I went there in April, and we basically drove the kids around, took them to school, sat outside the classroom, went outside when they were in the playground, not too stressful. My first day in Gettysburg, I show up, I'm due to report 4:30 detail. We had swing shifts, 8-hour shifts. I was report to work 4:30. I show up at John Eisenhower residence. This was on the corner. I don't know if any of you have been to Gettysburg, been on the Eisenhower farm. John Eisenhower, Major John Eisenhower, had a house on the corner of the property. I got there. Only person there was the agent in charge who I was supposed to report to. David Eisenhower walks out the door. He wants to go over to Grandpa's farm. Paul, you drive David over? Sure, he'll show you the way. So we're out the drive. I'm on my way over. David says, "You're new at this, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "You know you're supposed to call in on the radio and tell everybody where we're going, and you call them when we leave, and you call when we get there." And he says, "Oh, by the way, everybody and everything had codes. The residence, his residence was Sunflower. The farm was Sunshine. And the kids were Grand 1, Grand 2, Grand 3, and Grand 4. So he says, you take the radio and you hold it like this, and you say, Crown, Crown, this is Grand 1 departing Sunflower, en route Sunshine. And when we get there, you tell them we arrived. So I did that, and Crown was like the main base, which happened to be at Camp David. So we get to the farm, nobody's really around. He says, you want to shoot some baskets? They had a basket around the little court set up behind the house. I said, sure. So we're playing horse. We started out with pig, then we're playing horse. And it was kind of hot. So I took my sport coat off, put it on the side, took off my gun, set it down. And we're shooting baskets. And all of a sudden, I hear, hi, David. I turn around and said, oh, hi, Grandpa, how are you? That was my encounter with President Eisenhower. I figured that might be my last day on the job, too, since my gun was over on the ground. And so I just kind of snuck off. But that was a great assignment. After 30 days, I went back to Cincinnati. I reported on Monday, and the next day I got a permanent transfer saying I was starting the 1st of June back at Gettysburg. So I was in Gettysburg until President Kennedy was elected. At that time, in the meantime, we had they had Secret Service, they had Treasury School, which we went through, which was all departments of the Treasury, which was Coast Guard, IRS, etc. Doing that, then I went to Washington for the inauguration of President Kennedy. I worked the inauguration, and then we started Secret Service School. I completed that, and then at that time I went right directly to the White House detail. When I was hired in 1954, I was the youngest agent they'd ever hired. We had less than 400 agents in the entire country at that time. We had basically with support staff and everything at the White House. There were only about 31, 32 agents. I traveled and spent time with President Kennedy for about 3 months, and in the summer, in the meantime, they had, Mrs. Kennedy had found a farm in Middleburg, Virginia, going down there for weekends, and this was for her horseback riding and everything. I was assigned to that farm for the summer. Nothing going on during the week. We're there. We rode around in jeeps and shot groundhogs, made sure nobody else was around and kept coming and trespassing on the territory. After 6 months, this was in August of 1960, I was assigned to the kitty detail again. I thought this was pretty cool. Nobody liked this, and nobody liked to be with Mrs. Kennedy because this wasn't the glamorous job. I liked it because you didn't work swing shifts. When the kids went to bed or in for the night, you were off duty. When you were there in the morning and you waited for them to come up, and then you did whatever activities were involved there. We basically drove Caroline, John around. Time was spent constantly, it seems, traveling. We got fall, summers in Hyannisport. In the fall, we would go to Newport. In the winter, we'd go to Palm Beach. And then in the spring, we were back to Washington and back and forth between Washington and Middleburg. I traveled over 300 days a year. So I didn't mind it, I was single. Most of the guys were married. I think it was kind of tough on them. I don't know how anybody at that time could have been married and done this job. After a little over a year with the children, Mrs. Kennedy had just come back from a trip to India with her sister, Lee Radziwill, and she had a little run-in with the agent who was in charge of her detail at that time, and they just dismissed him, and they hired or promoted Clint Hill to be in charge of her detail. Clint approached me and asked me if I wanted to switch from the children to her. I jumped at the chance. It was just a super opportunity, I thought, for me. And again, it was fun. We were away from, our days basically were the same as it was with the children. However, with that, I did get to go to Ravello, Italy. And during my tour with her, we went on Onassis' yacht, which was, at least to say, very luxurious. He had a bar on the yacht that was all whale tooth, scrimshaw, and he had the complete story of Odysseus, the Odyssey. You leaned on the bar, it was like glass, and they had little boats, like in the Mediterranean, and the little boats moved around in this bar. They had a swimming pool that was at a dance floor. I forget how long it took, but it was a matter of a few minutes. You could empty the swimming pool, the floor would come up, and it was a ceramic dance floor. He had runabouts, he had sailboats, he had a seaplane on there. Every day a pilot would make a run for the mail. They'd go into Athens, they would come back, and whenever he returned, his feature was he'd radio ahead of time, everybody would get on deck, and the pilot would come in and he'd buzz the ship upside down, and then go off and come around and land and cruise up. This was before Mrs. Kennedy went back. I'm going to get if I get a little confused here, just bear with me. I was with Mrs. Kennedy today that she was pregnant with Patrick, and we were at the Allen farm. And Caroline, she'd gone out with Caroline in the morning to go riding, for Caroline was taking horseback riding lessons. We got out to the farm, one of the other agents followed us in his car. We got out there, Mrs. Kennedy kind of pulled me aside and said, "Mr. Landis, I think we better go back. See if we can sneak away and not really let Caroline know why." I don't remember how much longer it was before she was due to deliver, but we got in the car, and the road, I don't know if any of you have ever been out on County Line Road. There's a stretch that has these dips, and you go over these, and your stomach's up here and down. I'm going as fast as I can, and she's saying, "Mr. Landis, could you go a little faster, please?" We're going 80 miles an hour, the last I can remember, and I just kept my eyes on the road. Meantime, Clint Hill was off duty, I radioed to, we were staying on Squaw Island at that time. I radioed ahead to Clint, or to get hold of Clint, have him come in, get a helicopter to Squaw Island, and we needed to go to the hospital right away. So we got to Squaw Island, Clint got there, he jumped on the helicopter with her, and we flew to Otis Air Force Base. I drove to Otis in the car, met them there, and then Patrick was born, and they knew right away he was in trouble. They left. I drove to Boston in an ambulance with Patrick, and we got to Boston. This was, I don't know, late in the evening. And President Kennedy arrived, and just in time, really, where they announced that Patrick didn't make it. And so we drove back to Mrs. Kennedy, spent the night, flew back. They had their services. I drove back to Otis, and Mrs. Kennedy was transferred back there, where she's convalesced for a week. You all know that I was in Dallas when we made the trip. This is something I didn't talk about for probably 40 years. And the only reason that I started to was because of this book that was coming out. One of the agents, Jerry Blaine, had an idea. There was so much bad press and skepticism about the Secret Service and what they were doing, kind of like recently, a little publicity there. He wanted to set everything straight. And his idea originally was to just do a little bio on all the agents that were on the Kennedy detail. Took him, this book was 5 years in the making. He finally got himself a writer, a ghostwriter, to help him. And they changed the focus a little more to what it was like protecting the president, and focused in on Dallas. When we got together, I wasn't going to do this. And I was the last one I held out. And just about a week before their deadline, Jerry called me. He said, Paul, you know, Clint Hill has read the pre-published copy. He's going to do the foreword to the book. And I said, well, that's pretty cool. He says, what do you think? I said, if Clint's doing it, I will. So it turned out, I said, it'd be kind of a neat idea if once all this is done, let's all kind of get together and sit down and hash this over and just talk about it. And Jerry said, I'll run that by the guys and see what they do. So he called back a couple weeks later. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. When I said I'd do it, he said, I'll have Lisa McCubbin, who co-authored this, get in touch with you. I talked with her, she called me, and through email, and it happened to be, she's the one who told me that we got a week deadline to get everything done. So for the next week, we were on the phone a lot, emailing back and forth, and we got in just in time. She got her script in. Then after this was going on, and I said, Jerry, once this is over, we got together, why don't we at one of our annual meetings and sneak off and have the agents that were down there just talk. So he said, that sounds okay. I'll run it by it. Calls back 2 weeks later and he said, do you have a problem going back to Dallas? I said, well, I swore I'd never go back, but I guess it's time. He said, all right, we're going down, how's your schedule in July? We're going down there, everybody's gonna meet, pay your expenses, and the Discovery Channel has picked up the story and they want to do a special. So we got down there and during the filming of this special, we found out every one of us who had not wanted to talk about this for 40 years, every one of us felt exactly the same way. And our story, whatever we saw and whatever we felt, we were all the same. And it was almost like it was one of the agents talking, it was like, no, that's how I feel. That's what I saw. Whatever. This was a great experience, but I never talked about it. Every time, I never talked about being in the Secret Service. It was too painful. Everything always went back to Dallas. Any of you veterans out there, let me know what it's kind of like or what somebody can go through. I was in the backup car behind President Kennedy. I heard the first shot, turned and looked behind. I was on the right rear running board of the follow-up car. I heard the shot, scanned, turned, didn't see anything behind me, scanned the crowd, and I was about at the president's car, and I thought, gee, maybe I was pretty sure it was a gunshot because I was a hunter and I'd done a lot of shooting. Just as I looked at the president's car, I heard another shot, and that evidently was a miss. And then there was a third shot. I was looking right at the president when he got hit in the head, knew that there was absolutely no hope with that. Meantime, Clint Hill, and the reason we were there was only for Mrs. Kennedy, and this was a last-minute decision. But Clint was officially assigned to Mrs. Kennedy. He happened to be, I mean, whenever we're in a motorcade, we all have special assignments to where we're supposed to be. Clint happened to be closest. He's the one that made the dash for the car. He's the one that jumped up on the back. From there, it was we raced to Parkland Hospital. We had a hard time. Mrs. Kennedy didn't want to get out of the car. She was holding the president's head in her lap. She wouldn't leave. Clint finally took off his coat, jacket, covered the president's head, and we got her out. They took the president's body into one of the rooms there. I went in with her. There was utter chaos in the receiving room, in the emergency room there. I did what I could, cleared everybody out of the area. We got a chair for Mrs. Kennedy, and I sat down, and I stayed by her side the whole time, almost in the hospital. She went into whatever operating room they had there a couple times. I did not go in. Clint was in. He got the word first. He called back to the White House, tell everybody what had happened. After that, everything kind of ran together. We didn't know what really was happening at the time, whether there was a conspiracy going on. Our assignment, the agents that were assigned to President Kennedy were immediately switched to Johnson. They went back to Air Force One. I don't know if any of you heard or read, there was a little confrontation on whether we were going to leave with the president's body. They didn't want to let us go. I forget what the law was there, but they had to have a medical examiner or their coroner do whatever he does. And meantime, all this going back and forth. And I turned to Clint and he said, yeah, we're going out of here no matter what, because we need to be back in Washington. I was on Air Force One with the body. I was there. I witnessed President Johnson sworn in. We got back to Washington, went through that whole funeral. It was 4 days, basically, without sleep. It all kind of ran together. After the funeral, I stayed on with Mrs. Kennedy. That was a pretty rough time. She got a house across, she moved out of the White House into Averill Harriman residence, and then she eventually bought a house down the street. We traveled a lot the whole time. We were in New York. We were in Camp David. We were in Middleburg. We went to Antigua. We went skiing at Stowe. This is constant. If we came back to Washington, we were there for a day or two, or a weekend, and then we were off again. It was pretty tough for me at that time. Everywhere we went, there were gawkers. People wanted to see Mrs. Kennedy. And we never had a time really to grieve. And we had no counseling. There was no time for this. And they didn't do that back in the 50s. Finally, we were in Middleburg. Mrs. Kennedy came out and said, I want to go over to visit with Bunny Mellon. It was Paul Mellon, who was president of Mellon Banks. He had a farm down there, he had an airstrip on it. So we went over there, and she came out, and Clint and I had escorted her over. She came out and said, Mellons have a new plane, and we're going down just to take a look-see at it. Clint turned to me and he said, I don't like what's going on here. So he said, I'm going ahead. He went down, got on the plane, talked to the pilot. The pilot says, yeah, we're going to Palm Beach. So we end up in Palm Beach, winter top coat, boots, wool clothes, and I had to call back to minutes. I just throw some, was closing a suitcase for me and told him what had happened. And at that time, I said, Clint, that's it. I've had it. I'm out of here. And he said, yeah, forget it. And I went back, we got back to the White House. I walked in, typed up my resignation, left it in the box, and walked out. And then I got home, and Clint calls. You said it again, you really did, didn't you? And that was basically my career in the Secret Service. So, I know you probably have questions about Dallas, or any other questions. I'll try to answer as best I can. I'll tell you what I saw, what I felt, and I think the one thing with this book, we all pretty much agree, we all came up with the same conclusion. We saw the same thing, and that was the thing. We all felt such guilt that we had let the country down, we left our fellow agents down, and it was a huge weight off my shoulders, and I know off of everybody else. And it did what it did. I hadn't talked to Clint for years, and it kind of, we were like that. And it really renewed our friendship. Clint, by the way, has just come out with another book. I'll show you a copy. It's called Mrs. Kennedy and Me. It's a good read. Both of these are good reads. I don't get anything out of promoting us, by the way. I just want to mention, there's a lot of coverage in here. He devoted maybe half the book. There's a lot where I'm involved there. It's pretty much how he was hired with Mrs. Kennedy. When he first came out, this was a letdown too. But as it turned out, this was probably the best assignment we could have ever asked for. Other than the tragic ending, she was beautiful. She was very gracious. I could not say anything bad about her and the way she treated us. President Kennedy was the same way. First day of my duty at the White House, he walked by, and we were stationed. When they show up, we see him coming. They radio. Somebody's coming ahead, so you're there. You open the door for him, and you come through. And Mr. President, he walked by. Next time he saw him, he says, "Hello, Mr. Landis, how are you?" So I thought, this guy's got to be okay. And then he goes to trouble, and he was that way with every agent. And Mrs. Kennedy was the same way too. So it was a great time for me, probably one of the best jobs I ever had. The camaraderie, I think it was absolutely terrific. We played together, we worked together, the families, picnics. On the weekends, we joined local bowling teams. We played golf at golf leagues. It was a great experience. There's probably a lot more that I kind of glossed over, but I don't want to take up too much time here. Open for questions. And I have a problem with hearing aids echo in here, everything, so I may have Ron be my interpreter and repeat it so that I know.
Yeah, when you had your meeting with the other agents that were all there that day, all you agreed that all three shots came from the rear, right?
Yes.
All had
Yeah,
the same opinion.
The grassy knoll, no, nothing to that. When I first wondered when I first saw that, and I turned around, and then when I was scanning the crowd and looking, I did see somebody running up the grassy knoll, but people were diving all over the place, so it was really hard. But that was a reaction where maybe one of the other shots came from, but no, once we talked and we all basically agreed the same.
On that same line, his head fell backwards, yes? His head fell backwards?
Well, they had the thing when he was hit, and just at that time was when the car was really starting to accelerate. And I think just the way the explosion from the head and the pieces were flying out, it was kind of like he was slumping over and going back. And that's when Mrs. Kennedy was reaching out to get a piece of his skull. So,
Because I had heard that in order for his head to fall backwards, he would have had to have been shot from the front.
that was something that went through my mind when I'm trying to process everything. And I'm looking at the overpass in front, but nobody was up there. And I mean, I'm convinced everything. Oswald got 3 shots. You want to remember the first shot was free because the gun was loaded. He's sitting there. So all he had to do was get off 2 more shots in a matter of 6 point some seconds. I forget what it was exactly. So.
Did they ever feel the mafia was involved in this because he wasn't a yes man to them because they were behind him being elected?
No.
No?
No. I mean, you can, they're all, the sad thing about this is I don't think it'll ever die. There's going to be constant theories. I did this, I got a call after somebody had seen the Discovery Channel on the show on the Kennedy detail. Have any of you seen that or aware of it? It's very interesting. You can go on www.discovery and click on Kennedy detail, and you can view that. It's a 2-hour special. Did an excellent job. Where was I going with that? I don't remember now.
Oswald not only shot Kennedy, he also killed a policeman in a theater that day.
True. So, I thought it was pretty interesting.
You never hear about the policeman's name.
Right.
It's not even in that book.
That's true. So, I thought it was pretty interesting how they were able to find him so quickly, too. I don't know any of the background on that. So, I tell you, I blocked a lot out after this was over. So.
What was your opinion on the commission, the Warren Commission findings?
Right.
I agree with the Warren Commission. So, I was never interviewed by the Warren Commission. I had to write a detailed statement, but I never appeared in front of them on that. So that is also internet. You can my statement. You can Google Paul Landis and that'll come up.
How could you overlook all these shots? 2 shots before you got, 3rd shot you got shot in the head. How could you overlook it? How could they overlook so many shots? You know, it's 2 shots and you should save them when the 3rd shot. Security wasn't actually good. That 2 shots, 3rd shot you got shot in the head. Push you overlook it.
Yeah.
One question was why they didn't have a bulletproof bubble. Well, the bubble is not bulletproof, or wasn't at that time. However, that was President Kennedy's choice. There had been some showers that came through early in the morning, but everything had cleared up. He was very, he was open to the public. He didn't want to be around, have all the protection that close. Agents, he didn't like the agents riding on the back of the limousine. he was always one, when he landed, he wanted to mingle with the crowd. And it was a real headache. You would have everything planned, where he was supposed to go and what he was supposed to do, and all of a sudden he'd take a sidetrack. And but the bubble choice, or the plastic top for the convertible, it was his choice not to have it. Yes, ma'am?
It sounds like when you applied for a position with the Secret Service, that it was relatively easy to apply. Did the Secret Service then and the Secret Service now have requirements such as needing military experience or safety forces experience?
So a little bit I can tell you about that. I went on presidential detail after 6 months. Today, you have to be in the service for 8 years, and you have to serve in like 3 field offices, small town, a medium-sized town, and large town. So they got more personnel, and they're able to do that now. So we had 400 agents. You got over 2,500 now. Much more detailed. The training is much better now. Everything was changed so much. We did what we could with what we had at the time, basically. Yes, sir.
With all the bad publicity that the Secret Service is getting today, what's your overall opinion? Bad publicity that the Secret Service is getting today over the fiasco in South America. What's your opinion?
Of what's happened recently?
Yeah.
Bad mark on the service. A lot of people have asked me about that. Without sounding prejudicial or anything, I'll get to you in a moment back there.
Being part of a greatness.
Oh, thank you very much.
Maybe you got to get this guy.
Yes, we were in the difference between what happened with the sex scandal and that recently happened is going on. When I was in the service, we had a group of agents that were involved with the protection. We had the White House Police, which were a branch of the Washington Metropolitan Police. They were a separate organization. After all this happened, they ended up taking, the White House Police always wanted to be Secret Service agents. All the agents had to be college graduates. The White House Police said, I'm not saying anything against people that don't go to college or anything. This whole thing of the White House Police, that you did not travel. Their duty, when I was in, was guarding the White House. Because of the amount of protection and everything and the number of agents or people they need now, they've taken in people who put in their 4 years military service or anything. They want to come into the Secret Service. They can come under this other detail. Most of the agents were part of this advanced detail and military, I understand. It was kind of a bum. The first thing that happened, the somebody made a statement, I don't know whether it was our director or not, about that, well, these weren't the elite people. Well, that's BS, you know, they're all part of the same team. I don't know a whole lot else about that. I haven't really talked to anybody. I don't know how this is all going to be resolved. I do want to find out, actually, you know, what the status were of these people.
I mean, this is nothing new, or is this something new that had happened, or have you ever seen anything get back in the 50s of anything similar?
Not that I know of, anyway. It's usually, I've been out of touch for so long, too, that I can't really answer. I don't know about that. Yes, ma'am?
What is the name of the other book? You said Mrs. Kennedy and Me. What was the name of the other one that you did?
The Kennedy Detail.
Thank you.
This is the one, the Discovery Channel. And it runs every now and then. They have it back on. I haven't seen it, but people tell me, hey, I saw you on TV again, or whatever.
DVD or something.
Anything else? Okay. Yes, sir.
Is there anything like, is it on DVD that you know of?
I think they're selling DVDs. I have DVDs.
Are you saying that there was no conspiracy
Yes. In Dallas.
in Dallas?
Yes.
Because it just seems there are too many odd things there that Oswald knew precisely their route. And when Oswald was in the police station, Jack Ruby had a free shot at Oswald. There's so many inconsistencies, and I don't give a damn what the Warren Commission says. There was a conspiracy here.
I feel Oswald killed him, I really do, because he was too powerful. They didn't like what he was doing.
Well, there were a lot of hate groups out there, and he offended a lot of people. All I know is what I know. I don't know anything about anything, and I can see you can build. They will continually be building conspiracy theories. This week, it's so sad. I tell you, when they caught Oswald, I said, I'd shoot the SOB if I had a chance. That's how we felt. Never thinking right away, you know, what happens. And we lost all the information. There was only one person that knew. Unfortunately, it ended the way it did. I agree, Jack Ruby, he had a free run of the police station. There's so many things that never should have happened. But we can all theorize and have all sorts of theories. I'm just telling you what I feel and what I saw.
I'm not saying that it was your fault.
I understand, but I don't know anything. I dismiss the conspiracy theories. That's your right to believe that. Yes, sir.
You mentioned you heard 3 shots, Paul, and the president was hit by the 3rd shot. Was his rifle a bolt-action rifle? And if it was, how much time do you think elapsed between the 3 shots? Am I correct? Was it a bolt-action?
I forget exactly what they timed, but the first shot hit him in the neck, 2nd shot they say missed, and the 3rd shot hit him in the head.
Well, he was hit twice.
Yes.
So you don't remember if the rifle was a bolt-action and how much time?
It was a bolt action. It was an Italian Carcano carbine.
If you were to guess, Paul, how much time do you think elapsed between the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd shots? 3 seconds.
I don't know, but it is in the book. So you can check it up there, and you can probably go online and get all that. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Did Mrs. Kennedy have anything to say about what her thoughts were, or who was involved in this, or anything? Did she volunteer anything about this?
No. No. I mean, not to my knowledge, and not at that time or to any of us. We never got any feedback. Another one? I'm sorry, just a minute. It was too much stress. We had no time to grieve, and it was constantly on the go. And watching the people gawking and everything, it was like, it was just too much for me. And well, none of us really wanted to deal with it. I think, you're Secret Service agents. You're supposed to be tough, and, you didn't cry. I got on the plane after we got to Parkland, left Parkland, and got back to Air Force One. I broke down completely. I was able to hold it together that long. A lot of other guys lasted longer. We all got that. Well, nobody could get there that fast. But under the circumstances, we did what we could.
Well, it's kind of hear what those people are talking.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to stay around, have a little snack, so if any of you want to have a question that I didn't get to, I'll be glad to try to answer it. Thank you very much.
I think we can all appreciate what Paul has been through and the things he's done for our country and everybody throughout the years. So he does have, if anybody would like to purchase this book, Paul, just give him your name. He does have, 20 copies or something like that? Or whatever, how many?
I had 10 copies that I got, and they cost me $16, and if somebody wants them, they can have them for $16.
So he's not going to make any profit on the books, but if you'd like to have this book for your collection, it'd be $16, give him your name and you can get it, okay? Thank you. Here, I'll turn the meeting back over to Paul. Yeah, thanks for everybody for listening to Paul. I think he was very interesting, and I think we all learned something about that day in Dallas that we didn't know. I mean, I've been a friend of Paul for I don't know how many years, and you'd be surprised what I learned today, because I didn't know half of these things, even though we golfed together.
At the golf outing, I'm going to have one of these books that's signed by Jerry, Lisa, and Clint Hill, and it'll be part of the raffle or whatever you're going to get.
By the way, this was signed by Mr. Paul Landis, and nobody's going to get this one. Thank you, Paul, so much, buddy.
Thank you very much, Paul. We appreciate it. Great story. Table number 8.
So I said, that sounds pretty
He's a
cool.
great, he is really.
So I went to New York, stayed with them. End of the week, they asked me if I wanted a job working for them.
You want to take him and then bring him
So
filled out?
I was 2 years with him. It was just when color was first coming in.
Table number 4.
His company had won a Oscar for the title theme to Kill a Mockingbird. And I went with him. He went bankrupt in 2 years. And I picked up the pieces, and I have my own film production company.
And that's what you've done until you kind of
For
retired?
9 years. And then I met my ex-wife in New York. She was from Gates Mills.
Okay.
And we ended up moving back here. That's how I ended up in Cleveland. And then I worked, they had a family business I was with for a while, and then kind of went.
Table number 6.
And I ended up painting. I've been doing painting. I'm part-time security at Western Reserve Historical Society now.
I don't really get a chance to greet you. You need a hug for all of this. You would do what you're over there.
Thank you very much. Really, I appreciate it. Okay, good.
Okay, all right, I'll get this right, okay.
Very, very proud of you. Very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
I mean, I knew something. I was talking to the filing when that came out. And it was devastating.
Isn't that amazing? It's like 9/11, Kennedy Assassination,
I'm taking them and I'll get them from Paul.
I mean, in my lifetime, that really...
And 9/11 was my anniversary.
Yeah, I'll get you, Joe, I'll get you. And he's not making any money. It's just
I was on my way to
he's not like that. You know what
the Kennedy Library that day.
Okay.
They were going to do a...
He don't have, well, I don't ask him, I don't think so.
Doing a thing on the opening of the Mrs. Kennedy exhibit. And I heard the news, I stopped at a...
Table number 2.
I think everybody remembers where they were that day. That was a devastating day. It was horrible. Everybody was crying and...
If you want, I tell you what, if you want to write your name on a piece of paper or something.
Okay, how do you...
And we'll give it to me, and then I'll get you the list. And you know, if you want, give me your name. And then Paul can give me the books, and I'll get the money. I'll give it to him. Okay, Paul. He's only got 10. Yeah. Want to come next month to the meeting? We're going to have a good party.
Well, I mean, just come to, do I have to join?
No. Yeah, actually, yeah, we want you to join.
It's only $8
Give Ron the name or whatever, and now...
Yeah, no, he wanted to give me the money, right? He don't have a book. No, you don't have a book, do you?
Okay.
We're going to go get the books and we'll be right back, okay?
Oh, gotcha.
Okay? Okay, go ahead. Just autograph it.
Hey, Paul?
We're going to go get some books.
Hey,
I just want to tell you one thing.
She's probably can't wait till she can't take
Both sides of the table, I'm serving from both sides.
I didn't get too much of a chance, not to show it too much, but it's good to have it.
I can't get them up.
And they're probably getting cheaper than what they I mean, after all this time, they probably have publisher overruns or something.
hey, Paul, can we get an autograph for my wife here? I appreciate it. We'll swap you a DVD for it.
Sufit Irene.
Irene?
Yeah, I-R-E-N-E.
Okay.
That means...
Table number 1.
And then could you write, and Peter, that's my husband. Now, how old were you when you first went in?
24.
24, okay. Wow, thank you very much.
Hey, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Hey, thanks for your service, too.
That gentleman I was sitting beside come up and said, poor service work. He thinks the guy got him over the job. He belongs to a good credit to the country, and he has no idea what he's talking about. Good luck to you. Thank you very much.